Hello everyone, and welcome to my YNR Official 24 channel. Cole's last letter detonates like a seismic charge through Genoa City, and in one relentless, breathless cascade of revelations, Claire and Matt's true identities are exposed, alliances shatter, old sins claw their way into the light, and Victoria Newman is left utterly speechless, staring down a truth so devastating it rearranges everything she thought she knew about her family, her past, and her future on the young and the restless. It begins quietly, almost cruelly so, with a single envelope discovered where it was never meant to be found, creased, time-worn, sealed with the unmistakable weight of finality. Cole Howard's handwriting unmistakable, the ink faded but fierce, as if the words themselves had been waiting for the precise moment when denial could no longer protect anyone. The letter isn't dramatic at first glance. No explosive declarations or melodramatic confessions, just a measured tone that feels like a man. Standing at the edge of the truth, steadying himself before stepping off, and as Victoria reads, her breath catches because Cole isn't reminiscing or apologizing. He's preparing, warning her that by the time she holds those pages, the lies that have wrapped around their lives like ivy will have tightened to the point of strangulation. And then, without mercy, he drops the bombshell. Claire is not who she believes she is, and Matt's name itself is a fabrication, a mask crafted through fear, desperation, and a web of secrets spun decades earlier when choices were made under pressure that no one thought would survive into the present. Cole writes that Claire's existence has always been tethered to a truth too dangerous to reveal until now, that her lineage traces back to a night soaked in regret and silence, a night involving power, betrayal, and a child whose fate was altered the moment a decision was made to hide her rather than protect her. And as Victoria reads those lines, memories she had buried, fragmented arguments, hushed conversations, the sense that something vital had slipped through her fingers years ago, slam back with punishing clarity. Cole admits he helped orchestrate the deception, not out of malice but terror, convinced at the time that exposure would destroy lives. Yet every sentence drips with the knowledge that a silence did far more damage than the truth ever could. And then the letter pivots, naming Matt as the linchpin, the man who reinvented himself to outrun a past stained by guilt, whose relationship with Claire was never coincidence but consequence, whose arrival in Genoa City was engineered with precision to keep her close and controlled, and suddenly the puzzle pieces that never quite fit snap together with a sickening click. Matt's evasions, his overreactions, the way he flinched at certain names, the way he watched Victoria with a mixture of fear and resentment. And Cole lays it bare. Matt is bound to Claire by blood, by a history rewritten on forged documents and whispered promises, and the revelation is so staggering that Victoria has to sit down, the world tilting as she realizes that the people she's been protecting, questioning, and sometimes suspecting are all victims of the same original sin. Cole's words grow more urgent as he explains that forces far more ruthless than he anticipated are circling, that once the truth cracks open, there will be those who seek to exploit it, financially, politically, emotionally, and Victoria's name appears again and again because she is the axis on which this entire catastrophe turns, the one person whose power could shield Claire or obliterate her, whose response will decide whether Matt faces redemption or ruin. And as the letter reaches its final pages, Cole confesses the darkest truth of all, that Claire's identity ties directly into a Newman legacy secret so volatile it could destabilize the family empire, calling into question inheritances, loyalties, and the moral authority Victor Newman himself has wielded for decades. When Victoria finally lowers the letter, her hands are shaking and the silence in the room is deafening, because she understands instantly that nothing can be undone. This truth will surface, it always does, and the fallout begins almost immediately as she confronts Claire, whose confusion curdles into horror when fragments of her own past suddenly make sense, when memories she dismissed as dreams align too perfectly with Cole's account, and Claire's devastation is raw, her sense of self-splintering as she realizes the life she's lived was curated by fear rather than love. Matt, cornered at last, oscillates between fury and despair, railing against Cole even as he confirms every word, admitting that he believed he could keep the lie contained, that he convinced himself he was protecting Claire from a truth that would only bring pain. And the confrontation escalates with accusations flying, Victoria demanding to know who else was involved, Claire demanding to know why she was denied the right to choose her own fate, Matt collapsing under the weight of years spent pretending he could outrun blood and consequence, and Genoa City feels suddenly smaller, claustrophobic, as whispers spread, as Jack Abbott senses vulnerability in the Newman armor, as Nikki's instincts scream that something terrible has shifted, as Victor himself narrows his eyes, recognizing the unmistakable tremor of a secret too close to home. Cole's letter, meant as a confession, becomes a catalyst, igniting long-simmering rivalries and reopening wounds that never healed, and Victoria's shock hardens into resolve as she realizes that her silence now would make her complicit, that leadership, real leadership, means facing the truth even when it threatens everything she's built, and in a devastating final turn, she understands that Cole didn't just expose Claire and Matt, he exposed her tendency to manage, to control outcomes, to believe she could contain chaos with strategy, and for the first time in a long while, Victoria Newman stands at the center of a storm she cannot outmaneuver, only endure, her voice failing her not because she is weak, but because the truth has finally spoken louder than power, leaving her and all of Genoa City forever changed. The room was silent, thick with tension so heavy it felt like it could crush anyone daring enough to breathe. Victoria's hands were trembling as she held Cole's letter, the words scrawled across the page etched into her mind with a precision that made her stomach churn. Her eyes darted between Claire and Matt, the two people who had been her closest allies, or so she had believed. Her voice barely above a whisper, Victoria asked, This is true? You both. Everything you've done, it's all lies." Claire's face drained of color, her usual composure shattered. She had always been the picture of poise, but now, confronted with Cole's final confession, she looked every bit the guilty conspirator Cole had painted her to be. Matt, ever the charmer, seemed lost, fumbling for words that wouldn't come. His eyes, normally so bold, flickered with fear, with the knowledge that every lie he had spun was now exposed to the one person whose judgment mattered most. "It's not what it looks like," Matt finally stammered, but even he knew the words sounded hollow. Victoria slammed the letter onto the table. The sharp sound echoed like a gunshot in the room. "Not what it looks like. Matt, Claire, this letter says everything." Cole spelled it out. "The identities you've hidden, the manipulations, the betrayals, everything." Her voice rose, trembling with anger and disbelief. "How could you do this to me? To all of us?" Claire stepped forward, trying to close the distance between them, but Victoria recoiled. Don't touch me. I can't even look at you right now. You made a fool out of all of us. You've been living a lie." Matt ran a hand through his hair, pacing nervously. "Victoria, please, you have to understand." "Understand?" Victoria snapped, cutting him off. "Understand what? That the people I trusted the most were lying to me the whole time? That the woman I considered a friend, Claire, is actually someone else entirely? That Matt, my Matt, has been hiding his true self? Do you know how that feels?" Claire's eyes glistened with tears. "Victoria, we never wanted you to find out like this. We were protecting you. Protecting all of you." "Protecting me?" Victoria laughed bitterly, the sound hollow. "Protecting me from what? The truth? You think hiding your real identities, your real pasts, is protecting anyone?" Cole said it himself. "Every single thing you've done has been a manipulation from the start. And now he's gone. Do you know what that means?" Her gaze sharpened, piercing them both like daggers. "It means no one can stop what's coming next. The consequences are coming, and I don't know if you two will survive them." Matt's face paled, and Claire bit her lip, glancing at him as if looking for reassurance. But there was none. Even Matt, who had always prided himself on thinking 3 steps ahead, realized that Cole's final move had been the ultimate checkmate. The letter wasn't just a confession, it was a weapon. A weapon that left them vulnerable, exposed, and at the mercy of everyone who had ever been hurt by their lies. Victoria's phone buzzed violently on the table, startling everyone. She picked it up, her hands still shaking, and froze. The screen displayed a message from an unknown number. You thought the truth was shocking? Wait until you see what comes next. See. Claire gasped. It can't be. Matt frowned, reading over Victoria's shoulder. That's from Cole. Victoria didn't answer. Her eyes narrowed, scanning the message, the cold dread creeping through her chest like ice water. No, she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. It's not Cole. It's someone else. Someone worse. The tension in the room was suffocating, the air thick with fear and anticipation. Every second dragged on, each one amplifying the shockwave of Cole's revelations. Victoria placed the phone down, her face set in a mask of determination. Whatever happens next, she said firmly, we face it. All of us. But understand this, you two are on my radar. One false move, and it won't just be your secrets that get exposed. Everyone who's been caught up in your schemes will pay. Matt looked like he might protest, but Claire placed a hand on his arm. We have to be careful, she said quietly. Victoria's right. The game has changed, and now we're at the mercy of whatever Cole has set in motion. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the room was plunged into semi-darkness. A hush fell over everyone as an eerie silence enveloped the space. Then, from the shadows, a familiar but chilling voice spoke. You thought you could hide forever, didn't you? Victoria froze, her heart hammering in her chest. She didn't need to see the face to know who it was, though the voice carried a depth of malice she hadn't expected. Her mind raced, connecting dots, anticipating threats. Show yourself, she demanded, her voice shaking with both fury and fear. A figure stepped forward, and the dim light revealed him. Daniel. But it wasn't just Daniel. There was something in his eyes, a coldness, a precision, that made Victoria step back. His smirk was not the Daniel she knew, the Daniel she trusted. It was a Daniel shaped by vengeance, by schemes, by secrets buried long before any of them realized. You. Victoria breathed, taking a defensive step. What are you doing here? Daniel's eyes flicked toward Claire and Matt. Oh, I think you know why I'm here. Cole's little game was amusing, but now the real fun begins. You see, he underestimated me. He thought his letter would be the final move. But it's only the beginning. Matt's hands clenched into fists. Daniel, you can't. Daniel raised a finger, cutting him off. Oh, I can. And I will. Because, unlike Cole, I don't leave anything to chance. Every lie, every hidden truth, every betrayal. You've all been part of my plan. And now you're going to pay for it. Claire swallowed hard, trying to mask her panic with a forced calm. Daniel, what are you talking about? Daniel's smirk widened. You'll see soon enough. Let's just say, the identities Cole exposed? They're only the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more you don't know about yourselves, about each other, about the people you thought you could trust. Victoria's mind was spinning. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in as the weight of impending doom pressed down. Her pulse raced, each beat echoing in her ears. She knew she had to act, but every instinct screamed that any move could be fatal. You want to play games? She asked through gritted teeth. Fine. But remember this, I've survived worse than your threats. And I will not let you destroy us. Daniel's laughter rang out, low and menacing. Oh, Victoria, that's what makes this so delicious. You always think you're in control. But right now, you're the prey, and I am the predator. The tension snapped like a fraying rope, and the room erupted into chaos. Claire lunged for a defensive position. Matt tried to shield Victoria, and Daniel moved with unnerving precision, his eyes scanning the room for weaknesses. But before any blows could be struck, Victoria's phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, and her eyes widened. A video message from Cole, appearing as if it had been sent just moments ago, played automatically. On the screen, Cole's face was pale, strained, and urgent. Victoria, he said, his voice shaking but resolute. If you're seeing this, it means I didn't make it. But listen carefully. Daniel isn't what he seems. He's part of something bigger, something that's been in motion long before you or I ever imagined. Trust no one. Not Claire, not Matt, not even the people you think are allies. There's a network, and Daniel is just the front. Protect yourself. And Victoria, protect the truth. It's the only weapon you have left. The video cut off abruptly, leaving the room in stunned silence. Victoria's mind raced, trying to piece together the puzzle. A network? Daniel wasn't acting alone? And now the threat was larger, more insidious than she had ever feared. Claire's face was pale as she muttered, "A network? Cole never mentioned this." Matt shook his head, realization dawning. This isn't just about us anymore. Cole's last letter, it was a warning. And Daniel, he's just the beginning. Victoria took a deep breath, steadying herself. She met their eyes, her resolve hardening like steel. Then we fight. Together or apart, I don't care. But we survive. And we find out who's really behind this. Because if we don't, her gaze hardened, every word laced with unshakable determination. Then everything Cole fought for, everything he sacrificed, it dies with us. As they stood there, the room heavy with fear and uncertainty, the first piece of a much larger and far more dangerous puzzle had been revealed. And the game, Victoria realized, was far from over. The room felt colder now, as if Cole's warnings had sucked the warmth out of the air. Victoria's mind raced, replaying every detail of the letter, every word in the video. Daniel's presence loomed like a shadow she couldn't shake, and even though Claire and Matt stood by her, she couldn't stop the gnawing suspicion that one wrong move could unravel everything. "We need a plan," Victoria said, her voice sharp and commanding. "Daniel's not working alone, and if Cole's warning is accurate, this network he mentioned could be anywhere with anyone. We need to know who's involved before they strike again." Claire nodded, though her face was pale. "I can start digging into Daniel's connections. Every business deal, every contact he's had over the last 10 years. We look for anomalies. Anything unusual." Matt ran his hands through his hair, frustration etched across his face. "And what about us? We're exposed, Victoria." Cole laid everything bare. "If Daniel knows about Claire and me," he trailed off, swallowing hard. "You're right," Victoria said, her eyes narrowing. "We're vulnerable. But vulnerability can be a weapon if used correctly. We're going to turn their assumptions against them." Daniel's smirk from earlier replayed in her mind, his cold, calculating stare daring her to make a mistake. She shivered, realizing just how dangerous he really was. Unlike Cole, Daniel wasn't just cunning. He was relentless. Every move was calculated to destabilize, to manipulate, to dominate. Victoria paced, her mind a whirlwind of strategies and contingencies. "We need eyes everywhere. Surveillance, informants, digital tracking, anything and everything Daniel might not expect. Claire, you handle internal intel. Matt, you and I will coordinate external contacts. We stay in constant communication. No gaps. No surprises." Claire hesitated. "Victoria, even if we gather intel, how do we know who we can trust?" Cole said, "Trust no one. That includes us, meaning anyone who might be working for him or the network. We could be walking straight into a trap." Victoria stopped pacing, turning to face her. "Then we don't act alone. We verify every source, cross-check every lead, and never make assumptions. Daniel wants us divided. He wants fear to control our decisions. We're smarter than that." Matt nodded reluctantly, though the tension in his jaw betrayed the unease he felt.
"Fine.
But if Daniel's network is as big as Cole said, we're going to need more than just us. We'll need allies, people who aren't compromised, who aren't already playing into Daniel's hands." Victoria's mind flicked through faces, people who had loyalties, skills, and the grit to survive whatever was coming. "We'll need Victor involved. As much as I despise relying on him, his resources, his knowledge of past schemes, he's invaluable. And maybe even Adam. If Daniel's network spans this far, we can't afford to dismiss anyone who can help us." Claire's eyes widened. "Victoria involving Victor and Adam? That could backfire." Both have their own agendas. If we pull them in, it could create more chaos than solutions. Victoria's gaze was unwavering. Then we managed the chaos.
Carefully.
Every move calculated. If Daniel's playing a game, we play better. We anticipate. We strategize. And above all, we survive. A sudden noise outside the room made them all freeze, a faint rustling, like someone shifting just beyond the doorway. Victoria's hand went to the pistol tucked discreetly in her bag. "Stay alert," she whispered. Matt's eyes darted toward the door. Could be Daniel, or one of his operatives.